Good evening, everybody. Confirm if you can hear me.
We can hear you, Mariam. Good evening.
All right, thank you very much. It's another weekend of class, but before we start, I can see that we have a really low number of people in class. Let's do well to inform our party members to join the call, and now I'm going to be given 3 minutes for that. We can do that very fast, and then we can join the call. Our facilitator is already in class, so let's do that quickly, and we can start the class properly. Thank you very much. All right, 3 minutes is over, and we're going to be starting the class now. You can still tell your party members to join the call while we are starting. We're going to be taking the citation of our facilitator for today in a minute now. So the topic for today is Candidate Declaration Manifesto and Agenda, and to take us on that is our facilitator, Samaila Puloma. Samaila Poloma is a law graduate of Ahmadu Bello University. He worked in the Ministry of Justice, Gombe State, and resigned as a principal state counsel and went into active politics till date. He is a proprietor of a reputable nursery and primary school in Gombe, Academy of Greenwoods International School. He was also a former special assistant to the immediate past governor of Gombe State, and he is the MD of Boyard Forts Limited. He is a board member of the Electoral College, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for today, Samaila Puluma. Thank you very much. You have the
Hello,
floor,
good
sir.
evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, how are you guys doing today? And welcome to, I don't know, I've forgotten what cohort this is. I've taught so many classes, so I've even lost count of how many cohorts we've had so far. All right, so basically, like she said, today we're going to be hosting a course on candidate declaration and manifesto. And I guess a few of you know at least a general idea about what a declaration is and a candidate's manifesto for any election is. So we're basically going into the text now. And I'm sure they must have given you guys a text of what the course is going to be about today. So we'll proceed. So basically in introduction, it's talking about in politics, a declaration notifies the public of an intention to seek public office via an election. You're intending to run for an office. How do you let the people know? How do you get into the race? So it's a notification of an intention to seek whichever office you're going to vie for. Since an election is a formal group-making process by which a population chooses an individual to hold public office, it is crucial for an aspiring candidate to inform the electorate that he or she will be amongst the prospective candidates. So yes, a declaration is basically you telling them, because without you making a declaration officially, nobody's going to know you're in the race to be able to get your prospective voters or people that will support you in the election proper. This paper is primarily concerned with the process of initially reaching out to your general electorate. It assumes that the process of deciding to seek elected office has been concluded, letters of intent have been distributed to necessary stakeholders, and that the prospective candidate has the ideological, moral, or other convictions to seek the office which will be drawn upon and conveyed in the declaration itself. So what is this statement saying? It assumes that you have already thought of the office you want to run for, vis-a-vis looking at your qualifications, what your qualifications, and vis-a-vis the Constitution, what is stipulated with your qualifications, what you can run for. And then I said something, there's a sentence here which says letters of intent. Now, declaration, you are making a formal, entry or formal position of you running for an office. A letter of intent is a precursory to a declaration. A letter of intent is a document which normally, now this is done, it's at the stage of maybe when you are still consulting and trying to get views of maybe political godfathers, powers that be, etc. Then you send a letter of intent. That letter of intent is to notify them that you would be considering running for whichever office you want to run for. So that's what a letter of intent is. So, and it said, so questions like, which office do I want to fill? Am I qualified? Why do I want to do this? How can I make a difference? Am I ready for the challenges? Do I have the support of the stakeholders? How will I fund this? etc. must have been asked and successfully answered by the candidates. So all these are precursories before you make an official declaration with your manifesto. You must have thought of, okay, what office do I want to run for? Do I have the funds to do this, so and so? Do I have the prerequisite, strength, knowledge, finances, educational qualifications, etc., to be able to run for such office? So these are things that you do precursory to making an official declaration. A declaration must be an introduction as well as a preview of who the intended candidate is. So in your declaration, you're supposed to give a preview of who you are, educational, when you were born, educational qualifications, etc., work qualifications, if any, applicable, and all that. It's as well as a preview of who the intended candidate is, what his political views are, and what he or she hopes to bring to the sought office, and how he or she will deliver on those goals. This statement must receive as wide an audience within the constituency as possible. So when you're making a declaration, you should always have that back of your mind that is, it's your first, it's throwing your hat into the race. So are you prepared? You should always go, with your ace game. So that's why when you're making a declaration, you should be shooting for a wide audience as possible, because that wide audience is what will probably help you eventually. So, and then, okay. This statement must be received as wide as an audience within the constituency as possible. It must contain certain elements to be impactful. Its declaration begins a race in earnest and sets the tone for the rest of the campaign. A well-articulated, well-delivered, and well-viewed / attended declaration is invaluable. What is it saying? And in a declaration where you have a lot of people coming to hear you talk or making an official throwing of the hat into the race, it's invaluable, because that is where you begin to garner your support base. Because at that declaration, depending on how you bring your A game and you nail it, people from there on will be like, okay, this is a candidate I probably want to support, and I believe he has the what I'm looking for, in who I want to either be my representative, be my governor, be the president of the Federal Republic, etc. So now we're going to the text proper. What is declaration? Declaration in itself is self-explanatory. Like I said, it's a statement by an aspiring candidate by which he or she officially tells the world of his or her intention to contest for elective office. Traditionally, it involves reading out a prepared document. In most advanced countries, well, even in Nigeria, well, this text was written how many years ago, but in most advanced countries and Nigeria now, in some cases as seen these days, a declaration is done through media briefings, such as on TV, over the radio, social media, YouTube, Facebook, etc. I always give an example. I remember there was a youth candidate that tried to run for presidency, and his official declaration, I think he did it over YouTube. I've forgotten his name. It was one guy from the Southwest. Anyways, so he was one of the people that used the YouTube medium to officially declare to run for office. And he was a lot on social media trying to, get the attention. And why was he doing that? Because he knew that those forums or those media outlets would reach as wide an audience as possible. And that can help him convince people to eventually support his bid to run for whichever office he was, run for the office of presidency, which he was contesting at that point. So bear in mind that a declaration has multiple audiences: the general public, prospective voters, party delegates, and stakeholders. Now, who are these four people? Obviously, we all know the general public. Not everybody in the general public is a voter. Not everybody, even that is a voter, would vote. But at the end of the day, these four people are the people that you have at the back of your mind when you're making a declaration: the general public, the prospective voters, stakeholders. This is at the party level, obviously, and even generally, even minus party level in the society, we have stakeholders like associations that are very powerful, that you need to lobby so that they can be on board with your candidature on etc. And then party delegates, which is at the party level when you're trying to get the ticket of the party. Now, factors when making a declaration: who makes a declaration? Any prospective candidate for any elected office. This could be at or within the national level. We all know the president who makes an official declaration. And note, I put here the vice president. We all know the vice president is nominated by whoever becomes the prospective candidate. So a vice presidential candidate does not make a declaration. So also a deputy governor. These people are, after the nominee has been nominated for the office of the president of the or the governor, then they now nominate them, bring on their own deputies. So they don't need to make any declaration. At the national level, we have the vice president. At the state level, we have governors, senators, House of Rep members. Local government / ward levels, we have chairmen, state House of Assembly members, councillors. Political parties. This could be national, regional, state, local, government, ward positions, all down to the ward. All these people, when vying for office, always make declarations. And like I give an example here, the Imo State Youth Leader. The Imo State Youth Leader of maybe, for example, the People's Democratic Party or the APC or even the ADC right now. Anybody vying for these offices would be making a declaration to run for those offices. If any of you are politically very aware of what's going on now, with the coming on board of the ADC, there's been a lot of people, trying to weigh people to support them to become state chairman of the ADCs at state chapters, local government chapters. They're all making official declarations and going around trying to garner support for their positions. And even the PDP, the People's Democratic Party, which is about to have its convention on November 15th. Right now, we have people that are making official declarations and, trying to garner support from people, delegates at the convention, to support them bid into becoming maybe secretary of the party, the local, what they call it, youth leader, the other positions that are available to vie for. And then the final strata of people that can make declarations, I put here the professional associations and pressure groups, e.g. the Nigerian Medical Association or Farmers Union. I belong to the Nigerian Bars Association, and anybody that is a lawyer amongst you will know that when the time comes for running for offices, we have people, they make the official declaration, they even transgress from state to state, trying to seek and garner support from people to support their bid to become president of the Nigerian Bar Association. So these are the positions. The position sought would dictate the audience, medium, and the venue of the declaration. What is that saying in earnest? If you are running for example, maybe I'm from Gombe State. and I come from a local government called Balanga local government in the Gombe South region. If I, for example, I was vying for maybe councillor of my ward, I would not go to national TV to go and make an official declaration. Why? Because that is not my primary audience. As a matter of fact, that office that I'm running for, most of them might not even have access to national television stations. So I can do it. I will do it somewhere that I have access to these people. So also, if you are running for maybe local government chairman, there's no need for you to go and start wasting your time to make an official declaration on maybe a national television or YouTube, when you know your primary target or audience are people that probably don't even have access to that. So that's why it's saying the position sought to dictate the audience, the position sought to dictate the audience, media, and even the venue of declaration. So that's what it means, basically. Why make a declaration? Politics is a numbers game. Elections are won based on amounts of votes secured by candidates. A declaration seeks to bring prospective voters to support your candidacy. To get it, so it gets you into the race. That's why you make a declaration. It gets you publicity, because once you make a declaration, there have been candidates that were not known up until they made an official declaration to run for whichever office they were running for. And then that's when they began to garner, people started, they had some publicity, people started to know about them and realize, oh, wow, we had this kind of sound candidates, and we never heard anything about them up until the official declaration to run for whichever office they were seeking to run for. I will even give you an example. Even Barack Obama, he had been a senator, none of us knew him. Well, we're not Americans, but what I mean is generally there was no buzz about him till he made his official declaration to run for the presidency. That's when we began to realize that, oh, this guy was quite sound, an orator, etc. So there are so many situations like that arise when someone makes an official declaration, it gets you publicity. It creates awareness about your campaign, because at that official declaration, there are a lot of things that are going to say there that will make people understand your rationale, why you're running for that office, what you're trying to bring, what you want to change, those kind of things. So it creates an awareness about your candidature. It also helps you build a voter base, because a lot of people at that point, the moment they make a declaration, immediately at that point, they have candidates, they have prospective voters that already pitched their tent with them because of how impressed they are of declaration should convey your intentions, inspire the electorate, and contain convincing arguments. Yeah, what's this basically trying to insinuate? When you're making a declaration, you should go and try and convince the people. I always bring this example up. I remember in the 2015 election when the APC was trying to be re-elected into office, and they were transversing the whole country into the 6 states. Their campaign, that's where you make your official declaration to the people of the states to say you're running for whichever office you're running for. And all they did was dance, and then bash the PDP, the opposition at that point. And that was supposed to be their declaration in states of why people should vote for them. And they didn't say anything. They just dance. And then they will say PDP ruined this country. This, don't vote for PDP. They are thieves. Well, what did you come to? You didn't come tell us anything. So you see, that's why I always try to make people understand that when you're making your official declaration, it is much more about you than your opponent. The reason why you're trying to seek that office is because you feel you can do a better job. So sell yourself. Don't try and bash all this, our kind of local politicking here, where it's all about the opponent and not really about what you're bringing to the table. Then the third one, why should I make a declaration? Knowing your audience is key to writing a declaration. The demographics, social, economic, and cultural and religious dynamics must be carefully considered when making a declaration. An aspiring candidate must be able to connect with the electorate. What are the biggest challenges in the constituency? What can I do about them? So you should always put at the back of your mind when you're making a declaration, who are the people that you're trying to make a declaration for? You should look at their background. You should know, what kind of people they are. Then, as stated earlier, a declaration is a statement of intent. This must be a typed document and it must contain, but is not limited to, the following: a brief autobiography of who you are. You tell them when you were born, who you are, where you grew up, and all those kind of things. A brief, your education background, your educational background, if you have been working, what you bring to the table, office bank, all those, an autobiography, brief autobiography of yourself. You need to make people know what office you're running for. So begin to understand, okay, is this candidate suitable for what? For this rationale, why the candidate is seeking said office? Why are you running for that office? Okay, I'm deciding to run, for example, Samaila Paloma, I'm deciding to run for the office of maybe chairman of my local government. I've told them who I am. I've told them this is the office I'm running for. Why am I deciding to run for that office? Is it that maybe there are certain things you've seen that the past chairman haven't done, and you feel, okay, maybe you'll be in a better position to do it? Those are the kind of rationales and reasons you should have in your manifesto and your declaration. An appraisal of the past and current development of the respective constituency. So, for example, if you are running, like I'm from Biliri Balanga Federal Constituency, if I'm running for that federal constituency, I must tell them, okay, since becoming the Fourth Republic in 1999, the Biliri Balanga Federal Republic Federal Constituency has achieved so and so. We've grown to so and so at that 2025 that we are now. And I believe that ideally maybe we should be more than where we are now. Or I believe there are certain things I can do that can take us to greater heights by 2031, etc. Those kind of things. And your aspirations and goals. What are you aspiring when if you get the office you're seeking for, and the goals? A solicitation of support, and a commitment/promise. You should always commit to and promise to people, okay, if I do get this office, these are certain things I'll do. I'll do this, I'll do that. You shouldn't make verbose promises or go and, exaggerate just because you're thinking at that point you get the office you want to see you're seeking for. You should always, be realistic, which is something that we have never done. Our politicians, we don't hold them accountable. They just come and make all sorts of promises to us, and then when they get into office, they jettison that, because right from the onset, it was almost impossible to fulfill those promises that they made to the popular electorate when they were seeking office. Note that this declaration is intended for a wider audience. The language used must be motivational but simple, straightforward but memorable. Targeted statements for specific audiences within the broader constituency can be made in the course of the campaign. Now, what is that saying? When you have made the declaration to run for example, you're running for the office of governor of Gombe State. I'll use my state. I always like to use my state. Or let's even use another state, maybe office of the governor of Lagos State, or Katsina State, or Sokoto State, or even Ebonyi State. When you've made your official declaration, now bear in mind that you've made your official declaration. Now there are some certain targets or certain groups of people that which is why I call them targeted statements for specific audiences. Now, if you're going to go and meet the market women to make your official declaration and your manifesto seeking their support, you will not go and be giving a market woman statistics on that the GDP rate has grown from 2% to 5%. She doesn't care about that. That's not her concern. She doesn't even know what GDP is to start with. What she wants to know is that, okay, if this candidate that is saying wants to be governor comes into office, now the basket of tomato that I'm buying for 25 naira, or let's say even 10 naira, I want it to become 5 naira so that I can make more profit. So now you go and tell the market women what they want to hear. That if you come into office, you will try and make sure the farm produce is available so that they can get their tomatoes at 5 naira instead of the 10 naira they were getting. So also, if you went to the National Medical Association of the state, which you are buying for governor, you go and give them statistics of, okay, maybe the primary health care centers that are available and how you are going to increase that so that, healthcare can be brought to the common man. Those are the kind of things you give them. So also, if you are going to go and meet lawyers, you will tell them about certain laws in the state that you feel that are obsolete, that maybe should be changed through the State House of Assembly so that, you know, for better governance. Accountants, also accountants, you go and use their own language to try and woo them. So this is what this statement basically means when you're making specific statements to targeted audiences. Now we'll go to the fourth one. What are the main challenges? A declaration requires careful thought and meticulous execution, both when planning it, when delivering it, and some of the biggest challenges include, yes, the challenges to anything are not sacrosanct. Some challenges might not be here that might crop up, but generally these are challenges that I have encountered when I try to run for office too, and a lot of you will probably encounter them. Committing your thoughts to paper. A lot of us can blab for hours on end, but now when it actually comes to putting your thought to paper, it can be quite difficult. I'm sure we all know that. Trying to write an essay, you can go on a story for hours, but when it comes to putting that story down to paper and how, you know, your tenses, how to, you know, what they call it, the paragraphs and all that, it can be quite difficult. So this is a challenge that a lot of people face when trying to, you know, research and isolating relevant information. We all know how this has become a serious issue now. You can't just come and blab to Nigerians anymore. Maybe in the past, when we were much younger, someone can just come and make a verbal statement and say, the past presidential candidate, you know, when he was there, he blew 1 trillion naira, you know, just say anything. But now there's information at everybody's behest. We have AI now, and, you know, a lot of things are there. So you have to be able to research and isolate relevant information, and you know, and things that are not irrelevant, we chop them out. Proofreading and fact-checking. We saw how I remember when Obi was running, we saw how he was constantly fact-checked on Twitter, especially because Twitter streets where every small thing they will go and fact-check his statement. So you should do that too, so that when you're putting those things in the text, someone will not come and start questioning you because they can fact-check you. Production cost, which is why I told you in the onset of the introduction of the paper, I said you should always have put into consideration, you know, what your finances, because you are going to have to produce your text, and these things cost money. So you should have that at the back of your mind. Distribution. Now I give an example. I remember in 2025 now, yeah, 2022, when His Excellency, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, was officially declaring to run again for office. Mind you, I'm a member of the People's Democratic Party. I'm sure some of you might laugh because the party is going through a lot right now anyways. So that aside, so we were at the International Conference Center. And I noticed that during his declaration, a lot of people did not have the text. But immediately after the declaration and, you know, the whole hall, everybody disappeared, I saw a lot of the text piled up. So, you know, it got me thinking, why won't they distribute these things properly? Because when you're making a declaration, you should always put it at the back of your mind that, you know, it's a crowd. So there might be some noise, maybe some people at the back, they can't really hear what you're saying. Now, that text that you have given them is something that probably when they go home, you know, maybe sipping their tea at night, you know, or coffee or something, they will flip through that text. And that will give them a better understanding of who you are. So you should always make sure that your document is properly distributed so that everybody at least can get it. If not everybody, at least a wide audience can get it. Gathering an audience, it's a very difficult thing we know in Nigeria, especially when you're making a declaration. You should always put at the back of your mind, you should always look for days that the chances of you getting an audience is higher. If you're going to go and make a declaration, official declaration to run for office on a Monday morning, the chances that you will get an audience or a crowd at your declaration might be slim, because then that's a Monday, people are, you know, out at work, some are hustling to get their daily bread, things like that. So you should always look for days that, you know, you feel are most appropriate that you'll be able to garner a crowd at your declaration. Delivery in front of a crowd, that has been something that, can be quite difficult. You think it's easy to talk when you're with your friends, you're comfortable with them, so you can probably talk. But when you meet a crowd, and sometimes probably even hostile crowd, then you realize that these things are not easy to make a declaration, because you see people, either they are frowning, so things like that. You should always put that at the back of your mind when you're making a declaration, that it might be a hostile crowd. So you should be prepared to deliver in front of that crowd. Security. Security is a very paramount thing, because when you're making your declaration, you're going to make a declaration in different places. Either you're going to, if, like, for example, like I told you, if you're making a declaration to run for office of House of Representative member, and I'll use my constituency. We have Biliri Balanga. We have 20 wards. Now, those 20 wards, you're going to visit every of those 20 wards. And you must put into consideration is, if you are someone that is vying for the office that already has a member, you'll probably be going to that member's ward. So you should have security, because anything can happen. It's just it. So always put that at the back of your mind. Transportation and logistics. This also applies to what I was talking about in security. You are going to, if you are running for a House of Representative member of my constituency, you're going to visit 20 wards. Now, those 20 wards, you must travel to them. You must go to each and every one of them. So how are you going to move around? You have to put it into consideration in logistics and transportation. Then provision of motivation, such as monetary consideration and refreshment. Now, this is not a bribe. There's always a thin line between bribe and, motivation. But ideally, like I always tell every class, if people have decided to take their time to come out to listen to you speak or give a speech about you wanting to officially run for any office, the ideal thing to do is for you to at least provide some refreshments. And especially in a local place, maybe, for example, you're in a ward that you're in a village that maybe some places are not really easily accessible, and people have decided to come out, you should provide some motivation in terms of maybe, transportation funds for some people to go back. So that's what this motivation means. And refreshments, at least a bottle of water, pour water if the case, that's the case, applicable to wherever you are, a snack here or there, for them to be, to feel appreciated that they came to your official declaration. And then the final one is negative reception. You should always be prepared for that, because, like I told you, you're going to go to certain places that you might not be welcome. So you should be prepared that maybe you'll be heckled at, things like, too many things can go wrong. So be prepared for that when you're making your official declaration. It is important to keep in mind that regardless of how prepared you are, there will be challenges, encumbrances. So be prepared mentally and stay strong. Be guided by your convictions and ambition. Now, the final one here is, why should I make a declaration? Like I gave you guys a brief explanation of that earlier on. Depending on the office sort and its respective constituencies, declarations are made in following arenas: national television, state television, national radio, local radio, town hall / social or religious gatherings, social media. Note that one or all of these may be used, and that you have to repeat your declaration a number of times. And the key thing is to be consistent when doing this. Finally, we come to useful tips when making a declaration. Try to choose a perfect day to make a declaration. When activity is reduced, like such as over the weekend, during a public holiday, etc. Don't announce your campaign before you have your budget and strategy in place. If you don't have your budget and strategy in place, then advisable not to start making an official declaration. These are little things, tidbits that you should do before you make an official declaration. Test your theme and messages before you make your declaration. The important issues you wish to address, your action plan, your philosophy, your political philosophy, etc. So what does it mean? You have a group of friends. Obviously, you must have a team when you make before you officially throw your hat into a race. So these are the things you do. You use your team to, to test your theme, all those kind of things. Select the most ideal location to announce bearing your target audience in mind. Be punctual, arrive and set up on time. Yes, we should also be punctual. I always say this. In Nigeria, we have this big manism thing whereby you are running for office and you rather have people wait for you and then you strut in with, agbada, feeling like, okay, but ideally, you should be there on time. You should be the one waiting for the people to gather. That shows some level of seriousness. I don't know when we'll be able to attain that kind of level of politicking, but I do hope we get there eventually at some point. Have your own photographer, camera crew. You will need records, especially for the traditional and social media use. Make sure you have some supporters present as moral boosters when making your declaration. It is important to always inform the power base prior to your declaration. An announcement, even though they will probably not attend your official declaration. So who are these power bases? I put them in. We have like party leaders, major stakeholders, organizations. It's always important to inform them before you make an official declaration. It's courtesy. And that courtesy can be very helpful because in Nigeria, we're still at that level where we're playing very petty politicking, that the people that believe that there are powers that be, if you don't go and quote unquote seek their blessing before you do anything, it can cause a problem for you. So you should always have that at the back of your mind. Focus on issues and not your prospective opponent's shortcomings. E.g. the incumbent, which I did give a talk about earlier on. So I agree, but I believe that when holding it, a lot of aspiring candidates have not realized, or in fact, okay, can you hear me now? I believe so. It's back now. A lot of aspiring candidates have not realized, or in fact tend to ignore, the importance of a declaration. It is a very pivotal plan of any successful campaign. There is a lot of planning which goes on before a declaration. Sometimes it takes years to develop. The most important thing is to end up with something that is well executed to captivate those whose votes you seek to win. But it must stay true to who you are. Remember, the declaration is the instrument that launches your campaign. It is what those you hope will vote for you will latch onto and use to assess you and compare you to rival candidates. If your campaign is successful, it will also be used to rate your performance in a re-election bid or in a subsequent campaign. It cannot be overstated how important this is to get right. So thank you. This is the conclusion, and open to answering questions from you guys.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure and honor to listen to you. It has been very educative. I really appreciate you, sir. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box or raise your hands, preferably raise your hands, and I will unmute you to ask your question. So Sylvester, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
I can
can.
hear you.
Okay, all right, sir. Thanks so much for that insightful lecture. So, sir, I want to ask a question. During your explanation, you talks about letter of intent. So, I really want to know: is it appropriate? Like, for
Yes.
instance, someone is in an opposition, and maybe probably he wants to contest an election, whereby already the party in government, as at the moment, they have somebody that is representing that particular constituency the person wants to contest under. So you talk about writing this letter of intent to maybe different set of people. So is it proper to write it to the state governor, which is the ruling party governor, for instance, as you as an opposition, you are contesting because you feel that the person currently representing under the ruling party is not actually doing well on it. So you feel okay, you want to come out. Is it appropriate to write the letter of intent to the state governor or even some other people that you know in the constituency, as or let the governor say, oh, for instance? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Okay, so if I think I understand your question, you are talking about you're in the opposition party and you're writing a letter of intent to the governor of the ruling party. No. Why? Because at that point, you are in opposition parties, they are in different parties. The governor is not going to support your candidature. He's going to support a member of his own party. Now, that letter of intent, what does it mean? Now, let me give you an example. I'll use PDP and APC as an example here. For example, the ruling party is APC, and then the opposition is PDP, and you are in the opposition in PDP, and maybe you want to run for, I don't know, your name is, sorry, what's your name again? Where are you from?
His name is Sylvester, I think. Let me
Okay.
unmute him.
Okay. So anyways, okay, Sylvester. So let's assume now you're from, I do know a bit about Cross River State. So let's assume you're from Cross River State now, and you are running for House of Rep member of maybe Odukbani constituency. Why will you write? There's no need. You are going to be writing to the power basis of your own political party, of your letter of your intention to seek that office, not to the governor. Do you understand? It is your own political party. You should be your own political party's power basis that you should be writing to seek their support before you make your official declaration, not to the opposition that if you do get the ticket, are going to fight you. No. I hope that was what you were asking. If not, you can unmute your mic and talk, and we can clarify so you understand.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. We have our next question. Erogen, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Actually, my question is, this declaration you're talking about, is it different from the normal campaigns that we do, or is the same thing that you mean by declaration and campaign? At least that's what I want to clarify.
Yes, when you go on a campaign and you officially declare that I Rogane Prosper, sorry if I can't pronounce properly, I'm deciding to run for so and so office. Yes, in the campaign, when you are going on campaigns, you're making your official declaration. Because there's a declaration. The declaration is a two-front thing. You make an official declaration at the party level to get the party ticket. Now, when you become the prospective candidate of that political party, you are going to go and officially declare in every local government, state, and everywhere you've gone to say that you are trying to run for so and so office again. Do you understand? Especially when it's your first time of trying to run for that office. Maybe a re-election, and a re-election, you come back, it's still a declaration because you're coming back and telling them, when I came the first time, I said in my declaration, I will give you people this and this and that, and I've fulfilled that, and I'm going to come and do more for you guys. Do you understand?
I think he has muted himself back. So we're going to take the next question. Ibrahim Umar, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, my leader. I'm from Bauchi State, to local government.
Okay.
My name is Ibrahim Umar. Nice meeting you, sir. My question is regarding the declaration you take us through today in your class.
Yes.
If I can understand perfectly, you mean one need to have different types of declaration in different level or in different strategic points where you will go and canvass or seek for their consent to vote you in a seat, particular seat. So my question there is that declaration should be written or is just only verbal? Because considering that some places, some of them, they cannot have accessibility or they cannot able to read if it is written.
Okay.
So that's my question. Then secondly, is it mandatory in the election process that you must have a declaration before you contest? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so I'll start with your last question. Now, there is nowhere in law that it says in a constitution or the electoral act that you must officially make a declaration. No, there's nowhere. But then, if you don't make an official declaration, how are you trying to seek votes? How will people know you are in a race for any office? They won't know. So this declarations is an entry point into the official race to run for whichever office you are trying to run for. Now, on the issue of different text, what I explained to you then was that it's not when you're making a declaration, your declaration is in specific in certain places. You might say market women, there are certain statements you make. If it comes to medical association, certain statements you make. It's not ideally you should write. It should be written text because you don't want to make a mistake whereby, for example, you go to this certain set of business market women and say this and say this and say that. Then you go to another set of market women and then you've forgotten what you've said there and you now make another statement that might contradict your initial statement. So ideally, your text should be written, even if not all of them can understand. And we know that nowadays we have situations whereby even though your official declaration is made in English, it can be produced in Yoruba language, Hausa language, Igbo language, so that people maybe that can read or understand that, will have access to that also.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I think Erogene is ready to speak again. I don't know if he has further questions on it. So I'll ask you to unmute. I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question or anything.
All right, sorry, I mistakenly muted myself. So the other question I have is, where is the place of support groups, or is support group the same thing as other known groups you're talking about? Support group within the party, are they the same thing as other group you mentioned during your lecture, or support group is different from?
Okay, so support
and
groups,
pharmacies and market women that you talked about.
Yes, support groups are different from this other kind of groups I'm talking about. Support groups are organizations that are formed within the party for the sole aim of selling a certain candidate to the populace. Do you understand? So that support group is different from groups like market women, medical association organizations, the Nigerian Bar Association of that state, etc. Those are different groups from support groups. Those ones are groups that are internally created in a political party to sell the candidature of a certain person to the populace to garner more votes.
Okay.
So these are the two differences.
Okay. So in your in a declaration, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
In a declaration, should I still go to them and let them know my intentions, or because they're already part of the party, I should just let them be like that? Then another thing again, the last question I want to ask, what are the guidelines? What are the things that I need to consider when making a declarations?
And guidelines in what sense? And like, okay, the things the kind of things you should be putting into your text.
Yes. What's the procedure to follow? Is there a special procedure to follow when making a declaration? If you want to put it in a text and all that,
I did. You'll be taking me back to the text, but which I did explain to you certain things that should be in your declaration when you're making an official declaration. I stated things about like a brief autobiography of who you are, the office sought, the reasons why the candidate is running for the said office, an appraisal of the past. And those are the things that should be, those are the kind of the general text of what should be in your declaration when you're making it text. Do you understand? Those are the things you should officially put there. Now, in the terms of support groups, you know, this support groups is a tricky issue. Why am I saying this? Because most support groups do not come about till after the candidate has won his primaries in the political party. That's when support groups normally come up. That's when you now hear article for this, Tinumbu for that. Did you understand? So those support groups are basically non-existent till the candidate arises or is, you know, the candidate appears. It's not like because I don't know whether you're conversant with what goes on in most political parties. Yes, they might have some little pressure groups here and there, but these pressure groups literally arise after the substantive candidate has been declared to run for whichever office. That's when you begin to see support groups springing up.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's all.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to be taking some questions from the chat box. We have Elvis. It says, thanks for an excellent session, sir. My question is related to declarations. What mechanisms are in place to ensure accountability and transparency in the implementation of the declaration? That's one. Secondly, what procedures are in place to ensure the impartiality of judges in cases related to declaration? And lastly, how can concerns about judicial bias or impartiality be addressed, and what mechanism exists for recusal or disqualification?
So these questions you are taking me into law. This is not within my purview here because in terms of impartiality and things like that, frankly speaking, there's no mechanism. Like we know how Nigeria works. It's the powerful control the situation. So in terms of maybe an independent body or being able to control what goes on and what goes on, frankly speaking, there really is nothing. As a matter of fact, I will give you an example here. The Electoral Act says, I think, is it first, House of Senate and House of Representative member, your budget is 150 million naira. When House of Representative members are spending in some places 1 billion, who is there to curtail it? Nobody. So there's no mechanism or medium to be able to control or ensure fairness. There is none, really, frankly speaking. There's none.
All right. Thank you, sir. So Moses is asking, can we correlate declaration to consultation in politics, or they are separate terminologies?
Yeah, when you're in the process of making a declaration, you're also consulting, because as you're making your declaration, you'll still be going to go and have meetings with people. Your declaration is an official declaration. Is basically just telling people, I have decided to run for this office. Do you understand? Now, after you've made that declaration to run for that office, you will still be having sideline meetings with people, to try and still garner their votes. So it is all a process. The declaration is just saying, okay, now I, Samaila, have decided to run for this office. But I will still be consulting people. I will still be doing that. So yes, it's in the same process. So you can say it's all together.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Bryant is asking if there is a constitutional timeline for declaration.
There's no constitutional timeline for that. There's only the Constitution only states, the Electoral Act and the Constitution. Because what happens is the Electoral Act gives a time for within which primaries must be done. So after that timeline elapses, any primaries done after that would be deemed illegal. Then also, the Electoral Act also stipulates how long you can campaign to run for any office you are running for. Do you understand? So, and it normally ends 24 hours the night before the election. So these are the officially stipulated timelines by law, basically.
All right, sir. Tolulope Adewale, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr.
Yeah, good evening.
Samaila. Yeah. My question is as regarding declaration of intent and declaration making your intent known.
Yeah, hello, I'm listening.
Okay. So
I
for
didn't hear
example,
that.
okay, my question is about making your intent known first and also declaration.
Yeah.
Yes. So for example, if you are okay, do you need the approval of the stakeholders in a party after you have made your intent known to proceed with the with the with your ambition?
Okay. Now, this is a very tricky question. Why am I saying it's a tricky
Uh,
question?
and
Because
I have
the
an,
stakeholder.
the second
Okay, I'm
one.
listening.
Okay,
Okay.
I have a second question now. Which is the declaration part. Okay, just
Okay.
okay, that's justice. Let me stay put. You can use the
Okay.
scenario of Professor Sibajo in the just concluded election.
Yes. Use the
So you can
scenario
answer
in
that,
what
sir.
sense? Okay.
Like
Well, let
it
me answer
was
your
in the
first question. I don't
party.
understand what you mean by in the scenario of Oshibanjo. I don't get that.
Okay. You can answer the first question. I would clarify the second one.
Okay. So now, the first question was about, do you need to go and get the approval and do they need to say yes? Now, most of the time in politics, it's a very, very, very coy game and quite shady. Even if you go and seek their intention, some might outrightly tell you they're not supporting you. A lot, most of the time, will tell you, oh, yeah, you find young man, you fit the bill, go and, yes, go and make your official declaration, but they might still not support you. So whatever you hear at that point is not a final, is not like hitting the gavel on the nail on his head and saying, okay, this is the final say. Yes, sometimes you might hear a lot of things and they might deter you. Some might even spur you on, but in actual fact, they're just playing tricks on you. So there's no hard and fast rule to be able to decide that, okay, the stakeholder said they've listened to me and they feel okay, I should go and make my official declaration. It's not an endorsement from them. It's not every candidate that probably comes. And in Nigeria, let me give you a sneak bit. When you're making those consultations and letter of intent, there's normally a envelope, and we call it maybe like in the north, we call it goro. Maybe I don't know what you call it in the south, maybe like kola nut in the east. There'll be a small envelope of kola nut, to come and tell them I'm so and so person and I want to run for it. So they will always say yes most times, but that doesn't mean they're going to support you. So now, the second question, which I don't understand, you said in using the Osibanjo scenario, I don't get that.
I think he was approved as a candidate for the primaries, but
Who approved
we
him?
saw what turned out. So the
There was never a
stakeholders for
situation
him to
scenario
appear
like
for the
that.
primaries.
Which stakeholders did approve him? I don't know if any stakeholders that did approve him. Unless you can, I'm starting to be corrected anyways. But every candidate that went to go and meet the stakeholders, yes.
He would have made his intent known, and he would have been given a go ahead before.
Yes, everybody, like I told you, let me give you an example. Osibanjo made consultations before he eventually decided to run. They said they were supporting him. Tinubu made consultations before he decided to run. They said they were supporting him. Akpabio, the Senate president, made consultations before he decided to run. They said they were supporting him. What's his name? Rotimi Amechi made consultations. They said they were supporting him. So that supports, because let me like I told you, when people are making consultations to go and meet all these so-called stakeholders, you go there with a small parcel. So someone is that parcel will make them happy now. Even if they're not supporting, they will say they are supporting you. So that is not it carries no weight at that point. That they're a word of mouth. The word of mouth carries no weight. That's just the truth. That's the plain truth. Believing them at that stage, you are believing them at your own peril.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Oluwaseyi, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for the insightful lecture, sir. My name is Oluwaseyi.
Yeah, welcome.
On this platform, I'm a member of Labour Party. Sir, I want to ask, you were saying that there are no prayer groups. It is only when declarations are made that are prayer groups. I want to clarify, how are political parties structured in your own state? Because where I am, where I reside presently, even in a political party, there are still internal fractions in their system. Presently, in my own local government, we have 3 fractions of a major political party. They are in the same party, the 3 of them, they are in the same party, but 3 different fractions. So
Yeah.
they're already prayer group within a party, even before the declaration of candidate. And more so, in the state, globally now, in the state where I reside, which is Ogun State, a particular candidate is already being has come up, show his intent, and we have prayer groups, not even political party now. So runner, front runner for so person, vanguard for the same person, them youth for women group for the same person I'm talking about. You understand it? So if you look at that, I want you to clarify on that.
I get
and
where you're
how
coming
is
from.
it in your own state, sir?
Well, in my state, it's a different game. And you say from Ogun. I'm sure. I'm
Yes.
sure the person you're probably talking about is the senator or the chairman appropriation, right?
Yes,
Yai,
sir.
right?
Very well.
Most likely, it
Yes,
might be
yes,
him.
yes, yes.
So you see, so now when you're talking of likes of them, Yai, they have a political structure. Do you get their political structure? Now that is their own personal political structure. Now all those youth vanguard for Yai, who is financing it? He's the one financing it.
Okay.
Is nobody financing it? He's the one financing it. Now, in my state, we don't really have those pressure groups, don't really spring up till there's a prospective candidate. Do you get? Because most of those, this kind of pressure groups, all this vanguard for this and vanguard for that, is the prospective candidate that is funding them. They are not just, if he's not funding them, I'll tell you within 24 hours, all of them would die in natural death. So that is different from market women's group, lawyers group, medical association group, accountant group. Do you understand? Surveyor, group of surveyors, architects. These are the groups I'm talking about when you're making a declaration to try and woo them. Do you understand? Because they have things that are bothering them. So you're trying to woo them, and then you'll be using specific terms with them because to try and connect with them. That's what I mean. But this pressure groups issue, that's a different set of people entirely.
All right. Yeah. Hello, sir. Just I wanted to answer.
Yes, I'm listening.
In your own state, did the parties have internal fraction, even in the same local government or even in the same unit? Do they have that?
Yes, definitely. Yes, it happens. It happens.
Oh,
it happens
okay,
everywhere
okay.
because you have different candidates that have different people that are supporting them. So yes, there are factions.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We're going to be taking a couple of questions from the chat box now. Oluwatumbi asks, talking about official declaration, can declaration of intention be made through social media
Okay,
without
I think I'll take 2 more questions and then I'm done.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Without what?
Without
I didn't hear that. Is it can a declaration be made?
through
Can you
social
repeat?
media without a physical declaration. I think you mentioned that in the class
Well,
already.
yes, it happens, but it depends on what you're running for. If you are trying to be a House of Rep member for a constituency that has 20 wards, and you want to just go on social media, well, whatever the results are, then they don't complain, basically. Or you want to be a councillor for a ward and you are going on social media, how many people in that ward will probably have the social media? So that's why I said the audience that you are targeting would determine what medium to use.
All right. So, Mujtaba, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now.
All right. Thank you very much for this insightful session. I've gained really a lot from this discussion so far, sir. Really appreciate that. So my question is this: why do some individuals come out to declare for political position, even when they know deep down that they are not fully ready or committed to the responsibility that comes within leadership?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that last
In
part.
some deep on they are not
You're
really
breaking
ready
up,
and
please.
committed for the responsibilities that comes within the leadership. That's my last statement.
I'm sorry, please. Can you take it again? I didn't. You said some people. Why do they vie for office when they know that's where it stopped? I didn't hear you anymore.
Okay, so let me repeat my question again. Why do some individuals come out to declare for political position even when they know deep down themselves they are not fully ready and committed for that responsibilities that's is attained for that responsibilities? And from what I understand is mainly they sometimes it appears that their main intention is to gain publicity and public recognition, and sometimes for them to get appointment in the upcoming government. And in some certain cases, for them just to maybe them in some certain cases they even switch from the party they contested in, and also to another party for their personal gain. So, from your professional perspective, how does this practice influence the credibility of our political processes and the public trust in leadership? Thank you.
Okay. Well, you see, in Nigeria we have this ideology that politics is like a gateway to making quick cash. It's not really about leadership and providing what is right for the people. So yes, a lot of candidates do come out. They probably even know that they're not going to spend a dime. They probably even know that they cannot win, but because they will make some noise so that the most like candidate that is most likely to win will come and sit down and have a bargain with them and tell them, okay, maybe you step down for me. If you step down for me, I'll do this for you. That's politics. Do you understand? It does not have make it less credible or more credible. It's just how politics is played. Even anywhere in the world, you have candidates that come into the race just to bargain. So that does not change the quality or how credible or how less credible a process should be or is, basically. It's something that's been done centuries over and over across all the continents. It's not just peculiar with Nigeria alone. It happens all over the world.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. There is one more hand up. I don't know if we can take
Okay,
that.
so I'll take one last question and then I'm done.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Victoria, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question now. Is Victoria there?
Yes. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you. Some of the part of the question I wanted to ask, I think he just addressed it. I wanted to ask that in terms of pro and cons, when somebody wants to make declaration or make his intention known, and you know deep down that there is possibility that you're not going to win, but you just want, is there any benefit or advice concerning that? But I could get part of the answer from the last question he just answered, that some could come into bargain. So even if they know that they are not going to win. So thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. It's been a great session and it has been really enlightening. Really appreciate you for always coming through. Thank you very much. And I'm sure the students also appreciate you. Thank you very much for today's class.
All right. Thank
God
you,
bless
everyone.
you,
And
sir.
you guys to enjoy your weekend.
You too, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye. Madam Jessica, you can end the class now.
Okay, Miriam, thank you so much and well done. This was really amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
All right then.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Yeah.